Welcome to Pivot to Grow, where our philosophy is leap and grow your wings on the way up. Each week, we will bring not only our many years of experience, but also expert guests in many genres. Together, we will give you a blueprint on not only how to construct your new wings, we'll show you how to utilize them. We will do this with laughter, love, tears, compassion, friendship, and understanding. Here we go.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Pivot to Grow, where our philosophy is to leap and grow your wings on the way up. Each week, we not only bring you our many years of experience, we also feature an expert guest in business, personal development, health, philosophy, and so much more. Together, we will give a blueprint on not only how to construct your new wings, but also how to do so and soar to new heights. Hi, Gail.
Hi, Elia. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited about today.
I am too. One of my favorite people. Let me tell you a little bit about Mike Kline. Mike is the 11th of 12 children. Oh my Lord, Mike, I just want to talk to you all day about growing up in a family that size. However, born into poverty to an abusive alcoholic father living in a junkyard. He lost his mother at age 7 and discovered powerful lessons about life, love, and potential. Being raised by an emotionally abusive aunt and uncle and growing up gay in a Midwest Catholic family only added to his resiliency and resourcefulness. Through a journey of luck and hard work, he became president of a franchise company with 35 locations, then a 6-time successful entrepreneur. Dedicated to helping others build flourishing lives, he is a certified Barrett Consultant, Canfield methodology trainer, and master RIM facilitator and trainer. His primary focus is teaching the RIM method to help therapists and coaches process deeper emotional work with their clients. He lives in Sarasota, Florida, with his husband of 33 years and their new Labradoodle Luke. Hi, Mike. Welcome.
Hey, Gail. Elia, thanks for having me. I've been waiting for this day. I finally got on the list.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. I just want to say that bio, we could go so many different directions because first of all, you read that and not once did I ever hear the tone of a victim. It's like, and I don't know.
Really because you've never lived with a Labradoodle. That's hard.
Your resiliency and resourcefulness are amazing, first of all. So congratulations for living your life to the fullest. I want to talk about RIM, as does Ilya, because we have both been through the training with you. And I would like to start out at the basic question, because after I went through the essential RIM training, I decided to go into a coaching program so I could become ACC certified with the International Coaching Federation. And I find it really interesting how the two are very different and yet how they also complement each other. So one of the things that I didn't know about coaching and I learned in training is that I'm not there to fix anybody. So if I have a person who is stuck or has an extreme meltdown or needs a therapist or a counselor, that wouldn't be me. Now, it can be me now because I have gone through RIM Essential, so I have a basic understanding where I might be able to help someone. But could you explain, please, to our listening audience, how the two complement each other and how RIM so effectively works?
Yes, I bet I can.
I know you can.
And I bet I could do it in less than a day. So I want to zero in. I'll take that. I'm feeling like taking that in 3 little bite-sized pieces, maybe. So first, I don't think we said what RIM is, and it's a relatively little note. We've been keeping it a secret for far too long. So I'm so glad you and so many others are excited about sharing the word and getting it out there. So RIM stands for regenerating images in memory. And sometimes when we talk with people about that, they start getting they might get concerned or confused about what exactly that is. So this is like therapy more than coaching. And it's like, or is it more like this, or is it more like that? And what does that mean? And I don't want to go digging up all my crappy memories. And so what does that mean? So I would say that RIM is deeper than traditional coaching. And I would say generally faster and more effective than traditional talk therapy. And so it's somewhere in between. Let's say it's a third option. And it does follow the coaching model more, even though we teach this to a lot of therapists, and therapists will find that this is so effective at working with trauma that it's their new go-to method. And you're not required to be a therapist or have any particular education or requirements to be a RIM facilitator for your clients. So I would say that, and like coaching, we believe in the model that the client is naturally creative, resourceful, and whole, that nobody needs fixing here. We don't diagnose or prescribe anything. We do screen for serious mental illness because we want to make sure we're also staying in our own lane and that RIM is good for the client. And I would say most coaches would say, and a lot of therapists have agreed with this model, that they might say that over on this end of the spectrum, the therapist positions themselves as the expert, where the client is this broken pathology diagnosis, something wrong, and the expert's here to help. And where the coach would say they're at the totally opposite end of that spectrum, that the client gains their inner resourcing, provides the answers. We're here to provide the container and the safety and the space for that to happen, and powerful questioning will help make that happen, and a lot of other coaching competencies will help create that. So most coaches, when the client gets terribly emotional or bursts into tears, has a big emotional breakdown or something, in our culture, coaching and elsewhere in our culture, we've been taught to be afraid of emotions. I was there when I was doing corporate work and corporate training. When somebody would burst into tears, it's like, I don't know what to do with them. I'm not their therapist. Well, it turns out the therapist doesn't really know what to do with them either. Raw emotion isn't what therapy really deals with. And so we can handle raw emotion in a coaching model if we weren't afraid of the emotions. Mm-hmm. So this is about learning how to process and allow the full spectrum of emotions in our own lives in a healthy way. And then we can allow our clients to go there. So as a coach, coaches can learn RIM as a tool that stays within the coaching framework. In fact, we're vetted by International Coach Federation. We provide 36 continuing ed credits in our coach training. I think so that's huge for a lot of coaches. I think you're required to get 40 every 3 years, and this is a big chunk of that. So it fits in the coaching model, and it allows and it still is about, so I would say on that spectrum, what we're doing is we're doubling the length of the spectrum, which I would have to go way back here to do. We're just going to double the length of the spectrum so that if the coach is at the opposite end of the spectrum where they say, well, I'm not the expert, like the therapist is, we're just going to double that, the length of that, so that you would be amazed, and you've done the training, so you've seen it, how much deeper a coach can go than they thought, still leaving the client in charge. And it's like, I would say even the clients, it's not the client's thinking mind that's in charge. It allows the client's body, the client's nervous system and subconscious to be in charge and their own inner resourcing. So we can go much deeper than in the traditional coaching model because it's not just intellectual. Mm-hmm. And so it's just so much more. It's like in coaching, the coach still is in charge of like the direction of the questioning they might go down, following a path. With RIM, we're always following what's generated by the client. So it's much more following the client and much less of the expert than even the coaching model. So we're further away from being the expert, which is a big reason why you don't have to be a therapist to do this. It's client generated and client led, so that's part of the safety features that allow clients to go deeper without all of that expertise. Is that making sense? I think I've touched on the big high level of what you were asking.
Absolutely. And if I could ask one more question, and I don't know, can you explain a little bit what the process is? Because I am sure there are going to be viewers out there that go, okay, now what's he exact? What did he just say? Like,
yeah, right. Because what does
my
that
body?
mean? Yeah. So what does that mean? So yeah, I'm not going to touch your body in any way. It's a verbal process we usually do over the phone or on Zoom, any way that you would do a coaching conversation, you would do a RIM process. And so to know what to expect, it's usually closed eye. What if I just can I do a 1 minute demo with you, maybe, Elia? Would you be willing to play?
Sure. Okay.
So honestly, it can be done open, eyes open or closed. Some people don't want to close their eyes. They don't have to. But it's usually a closed eye process. So we might start with, if there's an issue that they're working on, and we can just pretend you have an issue. We've already we're talking about your procrastination at work issues, or whatever it is, not getting along with a family member, or they're being afraid to ask clients for money, or afraid of charging what you're really worth, or setting boundaries. All of these things come up in a coaching conversation, and so we want to get to the root of it. And I said, well, let's try something different then, if you're willing. So go ahead and close your eyes, or soften your gaze, whatever feels right. Excellent. And just take a deep inhale in through your nose, Elia, and then a full audible sigh on the exhale, all the way to empty. Excellent. And now just notice where in or around your body is the energy around all that we've been talking about, let's say, boundary issues. So where do you find that fear of setting boundaries energy in your body?
I find it in my solar plexus.
Yeah, excellent. And so just notice that energy in your solar plexus. What color or colors is your imagination wanting to give that?
It's purple.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And does it have a shape, this purple energy, or is it more amorphous, like a blob?
It's like a blob.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And so go ahead. We'll just pause there for a moment and go and open your eyes. Thank you. So see how easy it segues from a conversation into it. And the client isn't ever going to do anything wrong. My very first session as a client, I sensed nothing. I was thinking I couldn't do it right. And Dr. Deb was my facilitator, the creator of the RIM method, and she had me just notice the nothing. Oh, it's okay to notice nothing. And so I couldn't do it wrong. And how did that feel? And so we followed the nothing. And it was just phenomenal where we went. And we went places I never would have thought of. And so that's the feel of it. And when we find big emotions in the body, by imagining them where they are in the body, you don't have to be right or wrong. You don't have to be good at imagining things or worry about that. Your answer could have been nothing. And we would have allowed the nothing, which allows the something to show up. It is there. And so just like magic, what always happens is it's like body memory knows the core of that. What is the root issue? And maybe it was that time your girlfriend pushed you off the swing set in the 3rd grade, and you fell and you were so humiliated and you had a bloody knee and none of the girls wanted to play with you. And that when we redo that scene, now you realize that it's okay to have boundaries and it's okay to ask for what you're worth in selling your coaching program to women your age. It's hard to imagine if you have a subconscious belief that the girls don't want to play with you since you're 8 years old. Why would they pay you $5,000 to buy your coaching program today? Right? And we don't even consciously know that you would never bring this topic to your therapist or to a coach because you don't know you have that subconscious belief or block until it pops up and some strange memory shows up out of nowhere that you almost want to dismiss because it's so silly. And then it changes your whole life. And because we're a collection of all these little stories that are running, they're all they're all contributing to the program. And so a lot of my clients will have done decades of therapy on their capital T trauma work, but they never did anything on the boy that called them ugly in the lunch line in the 5th grade. And that's what's got stuck, or that's what's stuck right now. So this is the difference of being the expert and even that's what I meant when I said the client doesn't even know what the topic is, but their nervous system does. So they always react, to their boss the same way, or to someone in authority, or to someone who acts a certain way. Something triggers some memory, and we don't know what it is. We think we know, but it's better if we don't. We'll just go chase after what really wants to be worked with, and not only chase, we just follow. So that's why it goes deeper than coaching. And because we're working on the right issue that needs to be worked on right now, is why I say it's faster and more effective than traditional talk therapy, because we don't have to guess at what to talk about. We could talk for years and never get to that playground scene.
Well, in following that, I'll share an experience. So I was in Train the Trainer, Jack Canfield. He did a group RIM session, and I've been a counselor for many, many years. And when he started it, he was explaining it, and I had my eyes rolling back in my head. I'm like, oh, this is hocus pocus. But I thought, okay, I'm here. I'm going to play along. And it was one of the most profound experiences I had. And I'll quickly, I had been a people pleaser. I mean, to the detriment of my own physical and mental self. And I had gone to therapists for years and worked, my answer was, oh, it's based on your trauma. It's based on your trauma, but it's still here. In an hour with Jack, I think it was an hour for the RIM session, with an hour of a group session, I went back to being 4 years old. My parents were seniors when they had me, and they belonged to a club, but that was all seniors. I wasn't allowed to act like a child. And in order to have my self-worth and be approved and loved, I had to please everybody in that group by being quiet, not acting like a child, et cetera, et cetera. That's where it stemmed from. Now, did I know where I was going with that? Absolutely not. Didn't know. It was a surprise to me. The profound effect it has had on my life now is I don't have to people please. If you don't like me, that's fine. I don't have to try to win your love. I don't have to be a certain way. And it's made my mental and physical health so much better. So that was a profound effect when you were talking about you never know where you're going to go. And you can have years of therapy and still not get to the root of the problem. So.
Yeah, I
so
love
much
that.
So,
I'm glad you shared that.
Yeah, so much so that I went through the essentials, and I went through the next, I'm now a facilitator, and it's an amazing, amazing program. Which leads me to my next question, and that is EMDR. So there is a therapy program out there that you have to be, in some states, a therapist to do, and it's called EMDR. EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And so I want to read from the founder's book on this, which is the Breakthrough Therapy. EMDR, the clinician should also take a thorough history in order to identify 1, earlier events that set the foundation for the problem, 2, the present situations that cause the disturbance, and 3, the skills and behaviors necessary for the future. You may not know what the earlier events are, but a skilled clinician will help you identify them by using a variety of techniques she or he would have learned in the EMDR training. So with that definition of EMDR in a nutshell, how does that differ from RIM, Michael?
Well, of those 3 things that you need to know, with RIM, usually there's only one of them that the client is aware of, and that we usually start with, but even that's not necessary, and it will often shift. Like most clients will have an issue that they're working on when they start their session with me, and not always. A lot of coaches now will include a RIM session as part of their program. Everybody gets this special breakthrough session, and just to be proactive about the blocks that come up in life. But often, so they have an issue, and we'll dive into that issue. And what they'll often find, as you all know, is that the issue is never really the issue. Whatever's presenting isn't really the problem. There's an underlying bigger problem that we're not getting to, and this is just how it's manifesting today. Right? There's something else going on deeper. But we do generally start with the present situation. The number one, the earlier events. We don't have to know the earlier events, and I would venture to say that that's near impossible to figure out. In my own first exposure to this, took me back to a memory of being 7 years old, and when I was asked where am I and what's happening with my 7-year-old self, I'm in my brother Denny's living room. As you know, I'm the 11th of 12 children, so I have older siblings that already had their own homes. And my brother was taking care of my little sister and I while our mother was in the hospital. And so when the facilitator asked me what was happening, I said, well, my brother Denny just told us that our mother has just died. So, and it goes on to say, you have to be a grown-up now and don't cry. So if I were talking with a therapist about my life events, the death of my mother at 7 years old would have been the traumatic event. We probably never would have discovered that the real event that RIM revealed was, you have to be a grown-up now. That's what was stuck. That's what we redid in the RIM session. It wasn't the loss of my mother that hadn't been processed. It was the, you have to be a grown-up now, similar to the story, your own story, that I had to be a certain way. It was not okay to be me in infinite ways as it unfolded in the coming years, up until I think I was almost 50 years old when I had this session and discovered this. Oh my God, I'm still trying to be a grown-up. No wonder as a child I wasn't good at playing. I wanted to be friends. I was the first kid to be friend of the teacher every year. I wanted to be best friends with the teacher, and always trying to act like a grown-up. And a little, it was insane how many ways that showed up in my life. It didn't look like I had I suffered a lot from it. I managed to figure out a pretty terrific life. And there's so much more available when I don't see myself as having always had to be a grown-up. So we wouldn't know that earlier event. And so, like I mentioned earlier, so many people who have had big trauma would always be talking about that. They would miss the playground scenes, which is what keeps you from asking for more money or setting a boundary or making new friends easily, all of that. So we don't have to know the early event. We don't really have to know what the real present situation is. And we certainly don't have to know what skills and behaviors we need for the future. Because once we remove the old belief, the old ingrained that's just stuck in body memory, that when we talk about those things, we often deepen. I think we can make it worse by deepening the neural pathways. We keep treading over the same path. And with RIM, we can find a new path, take out a machete and whack our way through the jungle and start building a new pathway very quickly and have a new felt experience. So I would say it's different in all of those ways. And I'm not trash talking EMDR or anything else. I understand it to be very effective. And the therapists that I've taught RIM to that know EMDR and brain spotting and all of these other tools, they're very popular for a reason and very effective. And when they learn both, so many of my students have come back and said that I prefer using RIM for a variety of reasons. For themselves, the clients seem to enjoy it more. They know they're working on the right issue. And so they know they're not wasting time talking about old traumas that aren't really the issue at this moment. What needs to be worked on right now, the body knows. So I would say that's the biggest difference. And the degree to which the client feels safe and in charge, because we're not telling them, they don't have to go anywhere they don't want to go. And so that allows the client to feel that safety and go deeper and bigger. And, we want work done quickly. I want someone's life to be changed in a few sessions, not a few years. So that's really critical. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I find it amazing based on your story, and I apologize. I had to put my headset back on because I'm sharing space with someone. I found it amazing that I'm sure through your life, you worked on the trauma of your mother passing away when you were 7 years old, right? And you never.
Interesting. Tell me more. Where are you going?
Because I would imagine that if you went through therapy, you're 7 years old, and so everybody's going to look at, well, what are the big events that happened in your life? Well, my mom died when I was 7, and I had to go live with my aunt and uncle. And a therapist would hone in on those details. And I think that the beauty of RIM is that even if I were to come to you and say, I had this big event in my life, you as a RIM facilitator, you would say, okay, well, let's, like you did with Ilya, well, let's find out, close your eyes, let's breathe. So like you said, some people come with issues, sometimes they don't. And I don't know that like you had said, a therapist would ever have said, well, did anything else happen at the time that your mom passed away? That's what I was trying to get at. That came out in a RIM session. Yeah. So
right. And so that's exactly right. And it might not have anything to do with that at all.
Right.
Right. And so we body sense with Ilya there, and a lot of other methodologies use body sensing. And RIM borrows some skills and approach from somatic therapy. as well as interactive guided imagery and other modalities. And a lot of the RIM skills that are unique, Dr. Deb Sandella, the creator, would say very humbly that came through her rather than from her. They're really unique to RIM. But all of them are unique to RIM because when we're doing the body sensing, we approach it so differently. Or when we're doing dialoguing, interactive guided imagery, sounding, feeling, dialoguing, it comes from a different place of the client's spontaneous imagination creating and leading and being in charge the entire time, which is different from other systems that use similar sounding skills. So it's totally unique in that way. And that's what allows the right issue to come up. Because we just aren't going to, we have access to, the infinite intelligence of the universe. Why are we limiting ourselves to what our thinking brains can come up with?
Right.
I mean, it's just not going to happen. I'm going to, it's like if we're going to decide, you want to hear what me, the expert with 20 years experience talking to people on the couch thinks it is, or do you want to have the infinite wisdom of God at your fingertips and at your heart's disposal? I think I'm going to go with God.
Yeah,
however
absolutely.
people see that. I'm not here to preach or promote any particular belief system. RIM works with all belief systems and no belief system because it just is. And so, I think that's the crux of it. It's who's in charge. And so within the coaching framework, you might approach it with where do you want to go from here? Because coaches are taught not to go into the past. We're going to go from here forward and stop talking about the past. And with RIM, it allows you to recognize that where they are now in the present is that they're currently stuck in the past. So that's a good place to start.
Right.
So it's not that we're digging up the past just to play archaeologists. We're recognizing that that's where they are now. And so just noticing that and we're going forward. We're just going forward from their 7-year-old self instead of from where they are sitting in front of you. But they'll go very quickly. And if you can get that out of the way in an hour and a half, by allowing that, when unexpressed, whatever it is, the hurt or the unexpressed pain or the unexpressed anger or the unexperienced sense of safety and love and worthiness, all the issues that can come up. And people don't want to bring those up because it's too scary and too sad and they're sick of talking about it. And they don't want to spend another year talking about it. They don't want to spend another $10,000 talking about it. Just help me move forward. And so when we can allow it once and for all to not be talked about, but to actually be changed so we can move forward, then moving forward is a whole lot faster and easier. It's easier if we don't have one tire stuck in the ditch. And people just don't know that that's possible. They've been taught, Alia, tell me if I'm wrong, or if there's something you want to add to this, that I keep hearing that, well, you can't change the past. And here's more coping skills to make the future better. And I don't know anybody that's been through a lot of therapy who wants any more coping skills. I know a lot of people who would love to change the past. And it's like, well, of course we can go to the past. You do it every time you get triggered or poked at something. Every time you have an argument with your spouse, you're going to it. You're doing something that's coming from the past. Everything is driven by the past. So if we're going there anyway, why not change it while we're there? Why don't we go there with intention and safety, create a new felt experience in the past that your nervous system will treat as real. And now you can move forward as if you had a happy childhood, as if you had a safe childhood, if you had friends on the playground, if you had a voice and love and support and all of the things, no matter how big or small the traumatic experiences that got stuck, that we can go there and release those old stuck emotions that are driving the show so they're not driving the show anymore. And it's not about coping with them. I just say of course you can change the past. We do it all the time. And that's the big unknown.
One of the things I want to add to that, Mike, is Mike has been, and Gail knows some of my, but Mike has really been there through the ugly tears, through the trainings and some of the deep work. And I have said to you guys before, if I had found this years ago, it would have saved me so much time in the therapist chair. It would have saved me so much money in the, for a therapist, and still not, in a year's time, I've become further. So for me, what it does is, when we have a past event and without this RIM, so a past event in my life, there was a sting or a hurt. It was, even though I had moved past it, it was a sting or a hurt that was still there. There were things that were being triggered by it that I didn't realize. But going back and looking at it, going through it, it's not there anymore, if that makes any sense. So when I look back on that event, it's like, that was an event, no different than the sky is blue. That's how it feels to me. It's not that sting, it's not that hurt, it's not that presence there any longer.
It's moved. It feels like it's shifted for you from a present felt experience every time it's recalled. It's now shifted into long-term memory where it belongs.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you can look at it. It still can be a sad event and all of that, and it's not a current relived felt experience every time it pops up.
Exactly.
Consciously or unconsciously. So rather than moving past it, we move through it so that it can dissolve. What you've done is you've turned on your emotional operating system. Your body will, this is all based on the premise that the body will naturally dissolve negative emotions. If we would just allow them, emotions will flow through the body like water through a river. And we get scared when there's a negative feeling emotion or something scary, and we resist it. We throw a boulder in the river. We end up something really traumatic happens. We build a dam all at once to stop that flow, that you really never push the water back upstream. And so it just builds a dam and everything floods. And so we can find those stuck emotions, big and small, and create enough safety to allow them to go and dissolve. So when we go back to the past, well, we're going there anyway. Let's just go there and create a way to move into that boulder and watch it dissolve and let it express whatever it wants to express, so that we don't have to keep going past it every damn time it comes up.
And with trauma, right? Exactly. And with trauma, RIM taught me to be in my body, because most people who have trauma, I'm not going to say everybody, but a majority of people who have trauma in their lives will live out of their brain, because it doesn't hurt as much. You're in your body, you feel. And so that was the most amazing thing to me, and watching my fellow classmates dropping down into their bodies that had trauma, or may not, depending on the severity of it, and how much lighter they felt getting back in that body, getting back into those emotions, and how much more alive everything seems when you're actually in your body and feeling stuff instead of thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah, so good. Well, we get to be whole people. We get to be whole people again, and we always are. We're just releasing the deconstructing the dam that we built, so the river can flow again. And we're not broken. We've always been whole people. We just get to feel it and experience all of us again. Remember what we really are and what we come from. It's just so beautiful to watch that unfold before your very eyes. It's quite a miracle. And I think, because I don't, none of us can be an expert on 100 modalities. And so I can compare RIM to, other modalities that I've been trained in, and NLP and hypnosis and EFT and all of that. I've experienced EMDR, I'm not trained in it. But I've trained enough people now in RIM that I think I have a list of well over, 75 plus now modalities that other people have told me about. And I just have to write it down and forget it, because I can't, there's not enough room in here anymore. But when the people that are trained in all of these other modalities learn RIM, then they can compare for me. So I've learned so much along the way. And so far, the only thing I've seen or experienced that's gone deeper is doing an ayahuasca journey. I think to do a real plant medicine journey with the shaman, where that's legal and thorough and respectable and beautiful. And I finally did that last year. And it was, I would say it was quite remarkable. To me, it felt like a 7-hour medically induced RIM journey, except that I wasn't in charge of it. And so, it's there, it's in you until it isn't. And it was, for me, it was quite beautiful and profound and elegant, and I got a great deal out of it and learned a lot about it. And what I learned also is that I think that it's possible. I think a masterfully executed RIM session where we can really allow the client to generate it, because the client can tap everyone out there. This isn't, like magical, that any one of us is more resourced than anyone else. We all have access to infinite resourcing. And so when we can help someone dip into that, just create the space and the container for them to dip into that, then I think the RIM session is as deep as you can go without psychoactive, medically inducing something to set aside that part of the brain that prevents this from happening. And it's much safer and easier. You could do it over the phone in an hour as opposed to sending $5,000 and going to South America or Costa Rica or wherever. So, and you have a sense of control, which makes a whole lot more sense to a lot of people, me included. So, yeah, it's just been a fascinating journey. And, to the first thing you said, Gail, that, congratulating me on my resilience and resourcefulness. And it's like, it's funny. I made a joke about having a Labradoodle because that's the biggest challenge in my life, and greatest love. But it's kind of true because I don't recall. It's really interesting that how resilience works when we allow it. And the 100 RIM sessions I've had the luxury of having, the work was done in a few sessions. Once I opened up the river, everything else flows naturally. So I don't have any special skill. I don't have any special access to anything. I'm not particularly evolved or sitting any higher in consciousness than anybody else. And yet it's all right there. It's just right there. And so I think, and what I see is when people get introduced to this type of work, that anyone's able to step into it, that we're not broken. And we're all infinitely loved and resourced. And so the suffering is optional. And I believe that. And I also believe that it's okay if you don't. If somebody, the client doesn't have to believe that. I just know it's true. And that joy is available. And when you're feeling really miserable, you don't believe that either. And it's okay. You don't have to believe that. It's still there. It's there whether you believe it or not. It's like gravity works whether you believe it or not. So the joy that you have access to is still going to be there, and you'll believe it when it shows up and you feel it in your body. So we just keep doing what we do.
Absolutely. So we're going to take a quick break so we can have a word from our affiliates. We're going to take a pause.
You have heard us speak about Jack Canfield and his amazing work, from the success principles, train the trainer, breakthrough to success, and so many more of his wonderful programs. We strongly encourage you to go to pivot2grow.org, click on our affiliate link, and learn more about his upcoming programs and the difference it can make in your life.
And so, first of all, Mike, I want to thank you because I am going to marry my coaching with the RIM. And I think that for me, the coaching opened me up to be a better questioner, because as even when you go through the essential RIM program, it's about following the client, but it's about getting out of your head and really asking the questions like you did with Ilya. And I'd forgotten how brilliant that process was. So thank you for demonstrating that. Do you want to talk for a minute about the different programs that are available to people that might be interested not only in experiencing RIM, but let's say they go through an experience and say, wow, I would really like to be able to offer this in my coaching business, or I want to do this. Had no idea I wanted to do this. As the core of your coaching business.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, you could. People build a whole business out of just being a RIM facilitator. So yeah, I think a great place to start is with experiencing a RIM session, and another place, I do webinars on most weeks that I'm not traveling or training. I do a weekly, one or two a week on those weeks with where I'll do a webinar for like a 15-minute talk about how it works, and then we'll do a group experience or a demo. And so people can sign up for that on my website to to join the free group session online, or they can purchase a private session. People that are interested in the training, somewhere buried in the website, it says you can purchase that session, and then if you do the training this year, that you could apply that as a credit off your final invoice of the training even. So it ends up becoming a free session in the end. And there's a whole page dedicated to learning RIM for coaches, therapists, or new people who want to explore that, doing that for a living. And there's a lot of personal growth involved in that. So it's not like a training that isn't useful if you don't use it. Some people will sign up for it specifically for the personal growth. We're working on other ways of doing that and creating a separate retreat specifically just for personal growth. But honestly, so people that are thinking about wanting to do this, adding it as an adjunct to their current practice or developing a practice around it, they can do that training. And then if they don't end up using the practice, that they've gotten so much personal growth out of it, it's much deeper than I guarantee it'll be much deeper than any other retreat they've ever done for personal growth. Because it's so experiential, the training. This is not going back to school. This is where I limit my classes to 6 people, and you're sitting on my lanai, or we're sitting in a home setting with a small group of people, or we're sitting on Zoom with a small group of people, and we're learning a skill and then practicing it, taking your turn as a client or taking your turn as the facilitator. So half of the time you're doing a mini session through the whole 5-day training. So there's a lot of growth and a lot of practice. It's really a 3-month program with all of the practice that follows. So all of that is on my website at intus.life. And I thought about it, should I create a landing page or something? I'm not terribly excited about figuring out how to make a pitch or sell something. I want to invite people to, sense in your body. If you're feeling a call to explore this, you can just go to my homepage, is intus.life, INTUS.life, and which is Latin for within, by the way. The word intus, which is, don't get impressed, it's the only Latin word I know, but you can click from there. You can click on RIM, or you can click on Learn RIM, and those are the two places it'll tell you. And somewhere in there, it's like, you want to try it first, right there on the homepage. You can click on that and it'll sign up to join one of the group things. If you're a coach or a therapist thinking about learning it, you can sign up for the group RIM experience. So yeah, or just shoot me an email from there, and we'll talk. It'll be fun.
So I think it's about time we wrap up, because we've had Mike long enough, and he is a busy man. He's got a Labradoodle, and you've never experienced a Labradoodle. It's a job in itself. And Luke is a handful. But he's so cute.
He is. He gets that from my side of the family. My story, and I'm sticking to it.
I just want to let our listeners know that if you would like to learn more about RIM or about Mike, and you're driving and you don't have a pen, you can go to our website, which is pivottogrow.org. And Mike's bio will be there, links will be there, all the fun stuff. So you can hunt him down, track him, stalk him, whatever you'd like to do. And don't forget to like us and leave a review on your favorite listening platform. Gail, anything else that you have to say?
I just want to thank Mike. It was enjoyable spending this time with you as always, and I'm looking forward to continuing with the training in the future.
Hey.
I've made that
I love that. It's so good. And congratulations to y'all on the wings on the way up. I just love that. I've always heard that expression of just, take the leap and build your wings on the way down. And your twist on that is brilliant. And it's just so fitting for you and the beautiful work you're doing and helping people find their way up. So congratulations. It's gorgeous. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
It was so much fun, and we so appreciate you, Mike.
It's an honor to be here.
The views, information, or opinions expressed on this YouTube channel and podcast are solely the views of the individuals involved and by no means represent absolute facts. Opinions expressed by the host and guests can change at any time. Pivot to Grow does not verify the accuracy of the information contained in the YouTube channel and podcast and is not responsible for this information. Pivot to Grow and its hosts assume no responsibility or liability for any errors or omissions in the content of the YouTube channel and podcast. The information contained on the YouTube channel and podcast is provided on an as-is basis with no guarantees of completeness, accuracy, usefulness, or timeliness. The information published on this podcast and YouTube channel is for informational purposes only. Any reliance you place on such, you do at your own risk. The information provided is not meant to be a substitute for professional, legal, medical, mental health, or financial advice. If you require professional services, it is your responsibility to seek it out from a licensed attorney, mental health practitioner, physician, or financial services professional. In no way is the information provided meant to be a substitute for medical or psychological advice. This information does not serve to diagnose, treat, or provide a cure for any condition you may be experiencing. Pivot to Grow does not claim to and will not be held responsible for diagnosing, treating, or curing any physical or mental health condition. This podcast and YouTube channel does not take the place of listeners' healthcare professional. Under no circumstances should listener stop seeing his or her healthcare professional. If listener decides to take action based on the coaching and advice he or she receives from Pivot to Grow or a guest on Pivot to Grow, listener does so at his or her own risk.